So prior to entering my treatment at the Dawn, I'd been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder about 10 years ago. Diagnosed 3 times over the course of that 10 years. I've been in and out of therapy for about a year at a time, with some results, really benefiting from programs like CBT and DBT as well. But there was always something that happened to steer me off course, and I ended up repeating old behaviours. Alongside my borderline diagnosis, I was also abusing alcohol and at times prescription medications and some narcotics as well, all at various different stages of the last 10 years, but ultimately having an unhealthy relationship with a lot of substances. In the 3 months leading up to my treatment at the Dawn, things really went downhill very quickly. I hadn't experienced the feelings that I was having on such a mass scale before, just overwhelming sensations of emptiness, a lot of confusion about how I'd got to the point that I did, and really just having no hope for any solution I'd be able to implement myself. I did consider going back into therapy on a bi-weekly basis or even once a week, but I did know something was very wrong and that probably that low intensity level of treatment just wouldn't be enough. I had been prompted by my family to enter rehab about a year before coming to the Dawn, to which I was very resistant. It was really a decision I had to come to on my own. I appreciate that they put the thought in the back of my mind, but ultimately I'm so glad that I came here on my own will, checked myself in. Really with no expectations, because I hadn't known anybody who'd been into rehab or a treatment centre before. But I did think, my problems and the state of my health and mental health were drastic enough that I needed something quite intensive. The first few weeks that I was at the Dawn, the first 2 in particular, I did have a few moments where I wanted to pack my bags and run home. It was a very unfamiliar environment to me. I felt a little bit out of my depth and overwhelmed, and I was not used to talking about myself, let alone my emotions, for a big part of every day. Luckily, I didn't leave. Those feelings subsided a little bit on their own, but also with the help of the support workers and the peers around me who had been here a little bit longer and explained to me the waves that you go through in treatment, which I hadn't been expecting because I didn't know anything about rehab before I came. In my 3rd week, I'd noticed a remarkable amount of improvement on some issues or some incidents that I thought I may never get past in my whole life. Through the use of the EMDR technique in my counselling, I was able to completely reposition my thinking around something that was a very traumatic experience for me. And being able to do that just completely reset my thinking around the whole rehab process. It wasn't brought up to me that I'd indicated I may want to extend at some point. I approached my counsellor and said, look, if this is what we can do with one issue, if we can do even just half of that with some of the others that I have going on, it's worth me staying here a little bit longer. I think with anything in life, if you buy cheap, you buy twice. The same can be said for rehab. If you do want to get out of here in 28 days because it's 28 days when actually there's a lot more benefit to be had, then you may end up back in a rehab. And that's not something I want when I do have at this moment the luxury to have spent 3 months here and found every single week and day within that incredibly valuable. In terms of how I feel about the problems I was facing prior to coming in and now about to depart, the changes are fairly astronomical. In terms of my borderline personality disorder, the progression that I've made through 3 months of counselling, understanding that has been almost every day as opposed to once a week, but it's been at such a pace that doesn't frighten me, but really pleasantly surprised me. I have a much better grip on my mood stability, and I've widened my resiliency zone by being here, and I'm getting so many tools to be able to stay within that just by being in the group, in therapy, but also in the wider social setting here at the Dawn. You get the chance to practice these things every single day, and that's been so helpful. If it had taken me 6 months to make that progression, I think I would have been very happy to do it. But where I'm leaving now, I understand that I'm very much at the beginning of my overall recovery journey in terms of alcoholism and my borderline. But I do feel that I'm leaving on a note where I'm stable enough to go home with a slightly less intense support network, but support network nonetheless, and be able to manage and be able to pick up the phone when I'm not managing, which was something I always struggled to do before I came in.